Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. And before we get started tonight, I just want to say that this episode is definitely sponsored by Camaraderie Rescue Mission. And sorry, my computer's slow tonight. We have teamed up with Camaraderie Rescue Mission to help them. They basically help veterans and struggling with PTSD. So, definitely, if you're interested in purchasing some coffee, I can definitely get you the link to that. Just go to unstoppableovercomers.com and get your order in, as well as they take donations. And yeah, it's an amazing cause. Actually, the president and founder was on our show, Greg Bicknell. So it's definitely a great cause to be helping our fellow veterans. So next, I would just like to bring on our amazing guests. Help me welcome to the stage, the virtual stage, Luke Rossmo. Welcome to the show, Luke.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome. So I'm really excited about this episode because this is one of those things that I never talk about. Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
I never. I up until just recently, I never talked about my weight on here.
Mm,
So it was one of those sore spots. So tell our audience a little bit about what you do, Luke, and how you help people.
yeah. All right. So first off, it's amazing to acknowledge that because I think if it's a sore spot for you, it's a sore spot for a lot of people, and I think that people can resonate with that. So um, it was a sore spot for me for a really long time, and I struggled with my weight and man, okay, I struggle with everything under the sun. Like let's not joke. My weight was just one of the things. Really, I struggle with crazy low self worth and self esteem and self doubt and like all of these tricky things. Um, and I was a crazy binge eater. Like I binged on ice cream was my favorite thing. So I have this like I would say a historically complicated, complex, messy relationship with food and myself, and I struggle with my weight and dieting and all of the mess that comes with that. And it turns out I'm not alone. And I don't profess to have things figured out now, but I don't struggle with my weight, and I don't binge anymore. And I've helped others kind of come to that space as well. And so that's kind of what I do. And just like a super brief recap of me and where I came from and how it led to doing what I do now.
Right. And actually, Luke and I were talking before the show, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
interesting how I met Luke. So Luke is big on Facebook and the Facebook community, so definitely reach out to Luke on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and all his information is in the show notes, by the way, too, in case you're having to watch the replay. And I'll put it in the comments as we go through the show. But Luke had this super vulnerable post that he posted about a comment that his wife had made to him about how does he know what women think about weight loss and how can he help them with that. It was the gist of it, and you can tell. I should have had the post up so that we could share the screen because it was
Oh,
so
yeah.
freaking amazing. We should have done that. I
Mm-hmm.
could probably still try and find that, just to share that because it was so super vulnerable, and for me to see a guy share his perspective on that was something else because I was bullied my entire grade school career from guys about my weight. And so, when you say that you were struggling with low self esteem and self doubt and things like that, basically, that was me my entire time growing up. So I can definitely relate to that. But when I saw this super vulnerable post, his wife called him out and he was actually man enough to put it out there all on the line for the world to see. And I've heard that if you're vulnerable, you're going to attract your target market, and that's exactly what Luke did. Because I saw Luke on another podcast a couple weeks ago, and that is what attracted her to having him on her show. So tell us a little bit about that post and what made you decide to go for it.
Okay, so a little backstory to get into it. A little bit of a backstory. Um, so first of all, again, I really don't profess to be a know-it-all. Um, Yet I do, I feel like I do have some things figured out. Um, as much as anybody can have things figured out. But
Right.
so again, my history, like I had my own struggle with myself and my weight and myself, but in with food and having that binging relationship with food. um, I really felt like that put me in a position where I could relate to other people, women included, struggles with food and struggles with themselves. And I thought that my experience put me in a position to, yeah, just like I said, relate. Um, and 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 also, like, I actually really pride myself on being like, I think I'm a good listener, at least a good listener, maybe even a great listener. And I think that my ability to connect is quite high. And so, I have this identity around that. And so my wife, same as Georgia, and she'd be totally cool with us chatting about this. So Georgia, um, I don't know if you know this, but it's worth telling the audience. Like she's a psychologist and a social worker and a feminist and like an empowerment badass. Like my wife's amazing. Um, so when she talks, like I listen. I do my best to. So I was talking one day and she was like, "You can't. Your experience doesn't translate to having like you can't truly connect to the experience of women." And part of me was like f off. Like, are you serious? And um, and that was my immediate reaction was just first off, and this is I think part of what I conveyed in the post was I got defensive. And what I've learned not from just that post and but living my life is that if I'm defensive, it's probably something I really need to look at. It's an opportunity to grow. Um, and yet my immediate reaction was to be defensive and defend my position. And I feel especially bad about that now, just learning more about what women. So let me just say, like, I can't truly fully understand, but I'm really trying to. So, like, women have it way worse than men do when it comes to diet culture and dieting. And you just said you were bullied. You were bullied for your weight. I wasn't. I bullied myself, but society didn't bully me. That's a very different experience. Um, Man, I'm still getting off track here. So Georgia called me out, and I got defensive, um, and that was my immediate response. And I was saying I felt bad that that's how I responded in the moment because ultimately, like a big part of this is creating a safe space for human beings to share their experience, and I didn't do that. Like I shutting down, got defensive. It doesn't create that open space. Um, So it was a learning opportunity for all sorts of reasons. And then to take the next step and like write about that, um, like do some investigating, talk more with Georgia, start to do some reading and some researching, which continues, um, because I think you really have to continue to seek that understanding because I've not lived it. Um, the next step was to share that on social media. And I have to say, I was so resistant to sharing that and opening myself up that way. That's how it felt for me, opening myself up to, like, I'm a human being. Here I am making mistakes and I'm limited and I have my own biases. And holy cow, has that been like showing up in my work in ways that I didn't even understand because I predominantly work with women.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just this wake up call. And well, we were just talking, the post got like double the engagement of my best ever, my most successful post, judging success by the amount of engagement that it received. So it really struck a chord with people, which is like it's like a social affirmation that this stuff needs to get talked about. That I don't have your experience and I can't profess to know it. And it's systemic and it's an important conversation to have. So that was a big answer. Wow.
I'm just going to go to the comments here for 1 second. Our friend Kenny, tonight's conversation is so scrumptiously, deliciously, edibly tasty. Good, no pun intended. Kenny, you're awesome. We love you here at
Kenny's funny.
Unstoppable Overcomers. And hello to our friend Tim Sean. Can you share the post with us? Okay, I'm gonna work on getting that post up. I'll go to your Facebook page and see if I can find that. But definitely look up Luke Jonathan Rushmo on Facebook. That's his profile name. But
Mm,
you definitely have to you definitely have to connect with this guy. And I'm just reading at some of the stuff that you had put in your bio for the show.
mm.
I mean, because I was the same way, like being triggered and then overeating, emotionally eating, things like that. Um, and you're right, it's like exhausting trying to figure out the right diet. And I liked your culture of diet is not, you don't believe in diets, you believe in a different culture. So tell us a little bit more about that while I try and look for that post.
So just quick on that post, it's going to be a ways back because I do post frequently. Um, and if you can't find it, I can dig it up for you and share it with you and share it with the community. Diet culture. That's a big question. Like you opened a can of worms.
I did.
Um, yeah, well, so diet culture is it's we take it for granted, but within the name, diet culture, like it's systemic. It's literally embedded in part of our culture, and um, oh man, at the heart of diet culture is well, so there's a lot here. So let's just start superficially. I'll start
Okay.
superficially, and then I'll start to peel the layers back. Um, diet culture doesn't work. It fundamentally doesn't work. We turn to diets because it's the thing that we know to turn to because it is everywhere in our culture, whether it's keto or paleo or anything. And at the end of the day, it doesn't work. And there's reasons for this. Within diet culture, there's these things built into the system that they inherently insidiously cause us to self sabotage on our journeys. Um, some of these things are just the restriction. You can't take a restricted approach to food for very long. It's not human. Okay, so anytime we feel like we're missing out, we're setting ourselves up. I always say like we're bringing a pendulum from one side from nothing, and it's only a matter of time before that pendulum swings back to all. And embedded in that is this notion of perfectionism. When you go on a diet, do you have fast? Can I swear on this?
Sorry?
Can I swear?
No, you're
No,
good.
no, but can I swear?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah. So you don't half-ass a diet. Like you go all in. You're going to do it perfectly, or why bother do it at all? Like that's all inherent in the diet culture.
Hmm.
The problem is you can't be perfect for very long because you're a human being.
Right.
Um, Further, diet culture is like we want it now. We just go look at the magazine rack, and you're going to be hit with five headlines. It's like lose 30 pounds in the next 30 days, or here's your 7-week shred, or lose 10 pounds this week. It's like, okay, no, like what happens after that period of time? Okay. So
Hmm.
we always like need to zoom back the lens of the before and the after and say, well, that's just a slice of time. What's happening after the after? But the worst thing in diet culture is it plants this seed. What are we being told when you need to lose weight? You should lose weight. You should lose weight. You should lose weight. You should be different than you are. And that's the message that we're being met with, especially women. So this is the part that's the disconnect for me more as a man. Those magazines are targeted much more to women, and the culture's targeted much more to women. So largely women are being told you're not good enough. Why? Because you need to be different. You need to lose weight to be worthy. So at the heart of diet culture is this message that says you're not okay. You're not okay. You need to be different. Um, and because we're human beings and we are conditioned by many things, but part of it is our society and culture at large. We adopt these beliefs for ourselves. I'm not okay. That's the heart of diet culture. I'm not okay, and I won't be okay until I weigh less. And the whole system is set up for you to fail. And it's inherent in the system. It's the most fucked up thing you could possibly imagine. And that's what you grew up with. And that's what women are growing up with, and the culture. So yeah, I have a huge issue with diet culture. It's so problematic for so many reasons.
And I love that you said that because, okay, so recently my mom was in the hospital just after Christmas with COVID.
Mm,
And
mm,
so when she finally came out after her 5-day stay, I took her home, and then I went to the Shop Mart and went and got a prescription. I never look at the magazine rack. Never.
mm,
Something attracted me to the magazine rack because I had time to kill. So I went over there, and on the top, in the front cover, I think it was Hello Magazine. I have it here somewhere. I think it's out my front room. Sorry, I should have been more prepared. Was Hunter Mcgrady. Hunter Mcgrady is a plus size model.
mm.
It completely freaking floored my mind to see a plus size model on the front cover of this magazine. Now, I have never looked at the magazine before, and but I bought it, instantly bought it because I'm just like, hell yes, this needs to happen. More of this. And I made this post saying, hey, this should be the norm. Because you're right. My entire life, I've been told that I was too fat, too ugly, too whatever. Uh, well, all my public school life, let's put it that way.
Mm.
um and it's like, if you're not a size 4, then you're made to be felt less than. And and that really gets on your psyche after a while, and you don't even try for different jobs because you don't think you're going to get them, because you're, as a matter of fact, in some cases I've seen where the assistants of the C-suite professionals are definitely your not your average weight or not your overweight. It's the like supermodels type things. And I'm just like, so I know that for a lot of times it stopped me from doing that. And the fact that I'm even on my own show talking about this. But I mean, I wrote a book, and inside my book is all this information, how I felt, some things that happened when I was in grade school, and things like that. So pretty much I'm an open book. And I found your post because, you know what, Jonathan, I actually saved that sucker because to remind me of, let me see if I can get this up. I've never done this before, but let me just
You can
uh
figure it out.
we'll figure it out. I won't lose you. um
I'll be here if you do. I'm not really going
Here we
anywhere.
go. Share this. So, wait, what are you guys seeing? Are
Yeah,
you
it's
seeing
up.
my screen?
Yeah,
Okay, so
I see
here's
it anyway.
Luke's post. This was awesome. All I can see is this. I can't see you. So it said trigger warning, vulnerability, conflict, mentions of sexual assault. I'm just going to read this just in case people can't see this. Um, I didn't check my white male privilege, and I'm sorry, I'm doing better. My wife called me out hard last night. We were chatting about our business, and she asked me what knowledge and emotional labor I had taken on to really try to understand the emphasis with my female clients on a patriarchal world. Sorry, I'm not sure what that
I
is.
can help with that one. That's
Okay,
an important word. It's a
okay,
very important word. It's patriarchal.
okay.
Hmm.
What does that mean? Well, we'll get back to that after I read the rest of this
Mm.
so I can see you. More specifically, what had I done to I really recognize how patriarchal, is that right?
So there, it's patriarchy. So how
Patri-
patriarchy and diet culture intersect for women, which we can talk about. We can talk about it in a minute.
okay.
It's an important point. Yeah.
Okay. The truth, I hadn't done anything like that. I
Hmm.
reacted poorly. I was defensive, angry, and embarrassed. I've taken precision nutrition level 1 and 2 and neurology and coaching, EYL 1 and 2, um, Polivinkin level 1 and 2 nutritional master classes. I worked with my own nutritional coach for several years, hired several more coaches and mentors after that, lived and breathed my own diet journey and my own binging journey and my own restricting shame and judging journey, I spat. But you're not a woman, she replied. After I calmed the F down, I realized she was right. I hadn't done my due diligence here. I had interviewed numerous women about their diet culture experiences, and I deeply and actively listened to my female clients. I had female mentors. Georgia is a woman. That's his
That-
wife.
That's my wife.
If you're just tuning in now. But I hadn't really dug into the depth and guts of diet culture in relation to women and how intricately and insidiously our there's that word again.
It's such a tricky word. Patriarchal.
Thank you.
You're
Society
welcome.
infects them with very early age. I'm a feminist. My wife is a feminist. My kiddo is being raised a feminist, but I haven't done the emotional labor that I should have. I sat down and began to read. I read articles like titles, um, Tools of the Patriarchy, Diet Culture, and How We All Perpetuate the Stigma, Eating Disorders, Capitalism. That word's in there several times.
It's important. I told you, patriarchy's fault.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
100 years of media patriarchy on how women should eat and look. Book review: Politics of Women Feminists, Dichotomies of Power in Dieting. Oh man, you guys, my heart broke. I knew women disproportionately experience these things like sexual assault, wage inequality, employment opportunities, abuse, access to education, etc. But I really had no idea how insidious and persuasive to the pressure to lose weight was, touching all areas of their lives. One of the biggest things that struck out to me was talking about losing weight is contributing to diet culture. So now what? I believe that everyone has the right to look and do and be the way they want. I believe that everyone has the right to change the way they look and act indefinitely. I believe that everyone has the right to have the body they want, no matter what size or shape or ability that is. So now I find myself asking the question, how often do I offer the space for people to come and get some direction and support to make that happen without contributing to this toxic diet culture that, say that word again,
Patriarchy.
has so deeply entranced into every woman's life? Answer: I don't really know. My job and commitment to myself, my family, and my clients is to allocate time, resources, and energy towards educating myself more on this. I want to do better. I will do better. And I will do my absolute best to be part of the solution and not continue to be part of the problem. If you made it this far, thanks for listening, Luke. And there's a picture of his little band. Oh, cute. So, wow. That was massive. And thank you, Melody, for joining us. So that was powerful. That I just reading it, it gave me goosebumps. That is just, yeah. That now you can see why Luke's on the show, because for me that post hit a chord. And so tell us a little bit on why that word is so important.
Yeah. So like, for I'm gonna do probably a half baked job of explaining this, but the patriarchy is like it's so inherent in the fabric of our culture, and it's just, you know that song, like it's a man's world. You know that song?
Mm-hmm.
That's patriarchy, but it's really breaking that out and looking at all of the ways that affects women. So how does it being a man's world really affect women? So when it comes to um, diet culture was invented by men, and it's men telling women to be different. It's men telling women to be different. Women don't go around saying, "Hey, bitch, be different." That's men. You're not good enough. I said it earlier. That is a narrative that's been, like, it's centuries old. You should be different. And so men created diet culture, and within that is this system, and it's a broken system. It doesn't work. It keeps people on a track of up and down, the yo-yo diet thing, bouncing from one diet to another diet to another diet. Um, and the idea is that if women are focused on losing weight, because so I talk to so many women, it's like they obsess They obsess about the scale. They obsess about weighing less. They obsess about the exercise they're doing or not doing through the day. They obsess about the food decisions that they're going to make that afternoon or that evening. It's all consuming. So if you have a portion of the population that is obsessed with losing weight, um, are they living their lives or contributing to society? Are they standing in their power? Do they have a voice? No, they don't. They're too busy trying to fix a problem that never existed in the first place. So that's, in a nutshell, that's like patriarchy, and then distilling it down into diet culture, and how ultimately how that shows up for women, and how that played out for you personally is getting passed up for jobs
Mm-hmm.
because of the way you look, or feeling like you can't even apply for a job, or that you don't want to take that step. That's the intersection of diet culture and patriarchy, and it's everywhere. You can't get away from it.
Right. Kenny here says, Lucas, that's a gem of a gentleman and a human being and a friend of mine to millions who shares his goodness with others for the betterment of humankind. Oh,
Kenny's a gem.
that is, and that's it exactly. Like, and what you've said. I mean, women can be just as bad too. So it's not all on the men population, because I mean, I've seen. I will admit, I've even been guilty of this myself. When you see this beautiful skinny woman walking about, oh, that skinny bitch, like
Yeah.
I've been guilty of it myself. But then
Mm-hmm.
I used to work with somebody. I back in my days when I was putting myself through college, I worked at Pizza Hut in Wallsburg, and I used to work with this woman who was so super skinny, and no matter what she did, she couldn't put weight on. And I said, I tell you what, Laura, I'll suck all the fat out of my body and we can put it in you, and therefore you'll be happy and I'll be happy. So she was like, okay, let's do it. And but I didn't realize how much she also had gotten teased about her being too skinny. So it's either no one's satisfied. It's either you're too skinny, you're too fat, or your nose is too big, or something's going on. Like, we just have to give ourselves a break. And I'm laughing about this, but for years I cried about it until I was just like, Pete, you can only hear so much before you have the fu attitude, and then you just really you shut down. And that's what I did for years. I shut down. I was like an emotional block, my heart. And that's probably, now that I'm talking about this, I thought it was other trauma that I had gone through when I was growing up. But honestly, I think part of that was the bullying. Part of that was, even now, after I've gotten years of healing, I have a couple different coaches that help me with the energy aspect and things like that, and different things that have gone in my heritage and my lineage, and breaking energetically some things off. And it's just like, I thought I was done with that, but no, like it was still subconsciously there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. And my husband has never said anything. Like, I lost 30 pounds for our wedding 2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago in October. I was on two different kind of medications to try and help that. One almost killed me, and the other one had side effects that was unreal. So I ended up, you know, you do what women, you do what you got to do to look good in that wedding dress. And then after that, I gained like 10 pounds on my damn honeymoon
Mm-hmm.
because, I finally started eating, and I didn't realize that I was starving myself until I used to share an office with this guy. And so him and I chatted. He was like chatting with one of my girlfriends, and he's like, why don't you eat something? I'm like, I'm eating within my calories, and because I always have this thing where, if your exercise less your calorie intake or whatever, and as long as you come out on a negative, then you should be good. You should be losing the weight. And that worked for years. It's
Mm-hmm.
not working so much now because I have a huge hormonal imbalance issue that I'm dealing with on top of all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't realize what all comes into play. Well, and you're right. You jump on the scale, and if you lost 10 pounds, even though you've starved yourself all week, you get mad at yourself. And then you say, well, what's the point? And then you go take a chocolate bar and you eat it. At least
Hmm.
that was my take on it. Anyways.
Yeah, I think that's a common experience too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just Melanie says, I think the modeling industry is a big part of the problem and the solution. They starve them, and then even catalogs with larger sizes have smaller women showing you the clothes. We have to be able to be authentically and unapologetically ourselves. Absolutely. And that's where I'm at. You either love me or you hate me. And if you hate me, then say goodbye, because I'm really not here to impress anybody.
Yeah, you're not here to live for others.
Yeah.
Live for you. Yeah.
Yeah. But like yourself, you said you struggled with that too, like the low self-esteem and stuff like that, and the yo-yo
Hmm.
dieting and things like that. So um
Yeah.
so how would you say, what has been your most pivotal moment in getting past those emotional triggers?
Um, Man, do we ever like to distill things down to like a moment? Something that I really work with people on is um, usually we're not looking at moments. It's I always come back to this analogy of a dimmer switch. So it's not one moment. It's a continual practice of something new. And it's not like a one-off because that's what we want. That's indicative of diet culture. Like we want the magic bullet, we want the fix, we want the light bulb moment. It's like you're probably not going to get that. And the sooner that you can acknowledge that maybe that the path forward isn't in that, it releases you from looking for it. Um, when you're talking about emotional eating and binge eating, um, so I put this on a scale from where's my hands here? Snacking. No, let's do this. Snacking to like full on binge eating. And then past that, I would put like a clinical diagnosis of binge eating or disorder eating, which I'm not going to comment on because that's not what I can do. But along those tracks, there's disordered eating. So I can't comment on certain forms of disordered eating. I would just say not extremes. So all that being said, um, binge eating and emotional eating is a it's a very effective behavioral adaptation to get our emotional needs met. So first of all, recognize that's what's going on. That you're having an emotion that you don't like or you don't want to sit with, whether it's boredom or sadness or anything under the sun, anger. My big ones were like loneliness, sadness was a huge one. Just being down, bored, like even just being bored, being lonely. Um, when we turn to food, we're meeting that emotional need, and it's so effective. Like it makes so much sense. So the first thing I just want to share with people is, if you're an emotional eater, there's nothing wrong with you. It just makes so much sense. Of course you would do that. It's brilliant. The problem is, if there's a problem, it's, well, does it align with the long-term outcome that you're looking for? And for a lot of people, and certainly the people that I talk to, is weight loss. And now the answer is, well, now we have a disconnect. So the other thing that humans like to do is we take slices of things and we take them in isolation. So we look at an emotional eating event or a binge and we look at that and we say, well, that's the problem. I have to attack the problem. I have to fix the problem. But but it's part of a larger pattern and a larger cycle. And the first step is to acknowledge that. So if we are an emotional eater, or we any line along that continuum I talked about, there's a pattern that we have to look at, and it's not a light switch. So do you want me to talk about like how I would break down that pattern and like something
Sure.
to do at each step?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so the place that everybody would want to start is the wrong place to start, and that's with the emotional eating episode itself. But let's not look at that. That's emotionally charged and it's heavy. There's a heaviness around it. Um, Also recognize like it's habitual and it's a pattern and you've practiced it for a long time. So anytime we're looking at repeated behavior or practicing something, um, it's practiced. So when I practice the guitar, I practice to get better at it so that I can do it. I can sing and play guitar. Well, it's the same kind of approach here. So it's a pattern that's become, you've developed what's called unconscious competence in it. So there's 4 levels to skill development, and unconscious competence is the last one. It's like mastery. So first of all, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a conditioned response. So let's not look at that because that's charged. It's heavy. Let's acknowledge that there's a pattern here, break down the pattern, and then deal with the different elements of the pattern. And this really works for dissolving the pattern. And emotional eating is just part of the pattern. So the first thing is, what happens? Have you ever done this? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't put you on the spot, but like,
No.
okay. So I used to have the most incredible binges. I don't say that to brag, but just to share an example. Like, I really thought I was messed up and there's something seriously wrong with me, and it felt like magnetic. I felt like a moth to a flame, like it was inescapable. I was a slave to it. Well, the first thing to do is recognize what comes after the binge, what comes after that emotional eating episode. And 99 out of 100 times, people beat themselves up. And it starts with what I call the seed of self-judgment, which is like, it's internal. So me telling myself, you shouldn't have done that. Luke, you shouldn't have done that. And the narrative that comes from there is, you're such a piece of shit. What's wrong with you? You're never going to reach your goals. And ultimately, some sort of negative identity statement. There's something wrong with me. Now I'm hooped. So the antidote to that is, and this is going to seem counterintuitive to probably most of the people that hear this, but it's self-compassion. And I literally start teaching people self-compassion. I hold a compassionate space for others if they enter into a coaching relationship with me. It is the foundation with which to move forward and actually move towards your goals. Coming back to this idea of like, we do things for a reason, we beat ourselves up because we think it's going to positively influence future behavior, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. But Luke, how can that be? And I would just say, well, check your experience. How's that working out for you? And the answer is it's not. So practice self-compassion, practice it imperfectly, recognize that it is a practice and it's going to take time. And we're looking at the dimmer switch and we're just looking to engage in the practice, recognizing that it's going to be messy and you're going to do it imperfectly and you're going to mess it up and you're going to forget sometimes and the bully's going to creep back in. How could it be any other way? You're a human being. So be human, but practice something new because that's your path forward. The second thing that comes in the cycle is restriction. We restrict the thing that we snack on or binge because that is food that we shouldn't have, because then we're bad if we have it. Generally, that's language is kind of inherent or part and parcel of the whole thing. Not always, but often. So the next step, and again, this seems incredibly counterintuitive, but do not put foods on a list of the I shouldn't eat this list. Don't have that list. Everything is on the I can eat that list. I can eat it, and I'm going to eat it if I truly want to. And let that be the filter for a while. And yeah, it's probably going to lead you to eating those things. And then just another example or another opportunity to practice self-compassion. But guess what? You're not going to be drawn to that stuff with the same intent. So that in and of itself, those two things will hugely disarm the pattern as a whole. The next steps then are to come to terms and come to know your own personal triggers. So for me, I talked about loneliness. So, okay, I'm going to snack. I'm going to go have this ice cream and everything else under the sun if you're me, because I'm lonely and maybe I'm sad. So now I have to ask myself, well, what do I really need? Or I like to break it down into 2 questions. And all of this stuff is a practice. This isn't an on-off switch. You have to live with this stuff and breathe it and work it. It's like I give you this Play-Doh, and now you're going to make something of it, and it's going to take time. But if you're turning to a food because you're sad, it's a different reason. So it's highly individual. So, Dorothy, if you're sad and you turn to food, we're going to have to find something different to do instead, something that also aligns with our long-term outcome. So the 2 questions I like people to ask themselves is, what is this food doing for me? And that's when we start to uncover what this food is doing. Not to say don't have the food. I'm still saying you can have it. But take a moment and say, what is this doing for me? Oh my, I'm so sad. And give yourself this, that's okay. You're a human being. It's okay to be sad. So I always come back to holding space to allow your experience. So if you're sad, what's the next question? Well, what do I really need right now? Man, first of all, I need to accept that I'm sad. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I could read a book. Maybe I could have a bath. Maybe I could go for a walk. Maybe I could pet my dog. Maybe I could call my friend. So we get all of these like shirts and we're rearranging our closet. And then we could try this shirt on in the future when we recognize like, oh man, there's sadness here. And it's messy. So maybe it also means having that food, like indulging in that thing that's been working for you for years. But then like also try going for a walk and see how it fits and explore. So it's cyclical. There's a pattern. We have to look at the pattern as a whole. You have to understand your pattern. It's going to be different than mine. But I guess that's not really a nutshell, but we have to look at the pattern. So that's how we do it.
I love that you said that. So, okay, I'm going to be super vulnerable here, and I'll put myself on the front line right now.
Sure.
So, I will say, last week was a highly supercharged emotional week for me.
Mm-hmm.
We had some family crap go down last Friday,
Mm-hmm.
which led on to through the week. Um, it was almost like a grieving process of losing somebody. We didn't lose him in the sense that he's dead, but he decided that he was going to go live somewhere else, and you know, whatever stuff happened, and we're working through that. On top of that, it was my dad's birthday this weekend, and my dad passed away September 14th of last year. So it was my idea to come up with a party to honor my father, and it was my idea on what to do. So I could tell though all week I was like trying not to have the food that I shouldn't have, which as soon as my body digests a carb, it like sits on my ass. And I need to change my thinking with that. I get that now that I'm listening to you, and not the bad food, but I do recognize that if I have too many carbs that my body holds it. So I try and stick more to protein and vegetables when I'm in my red headspace. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I took notes on everything that Luke had said. With that though, so the party comes. So what do we have? All my dad's favorite, all party food. So you have like steak, your baked potatoes, your macaroni salad, and then you have cake. And if that wasn't bad enough, somebody brought my favorite, some kind of peanut butter cheesecake. Reese's peanut butter cheesecake. Like,
Mm-hmm.
seriously, folks, it was the best damn thing I've had in a long time. So, yes, I indulged. Did I get upset? This is the first time, though, that I have not beat myself up for it. I knew that I was going to eat stuff that wasn't on plan. And I had made that decision that I wasn't going to get upset with myself. But for me, when I'm super sad, or there's just like, it was a highly charged emotional week, during the week, I even ate things that I shouldn't have. And during the week, I didn't beat myself up like I normally would have. But I'm like, I made myself aware, okay, why did you really eat that? But I said to myself, hey, I'm still within my calories. And, I got my 10,000 steps in for the day. So I tried to, have that dialogue inside my head
Mm-hmm.
that it was okay, and trying to justify, because, I lost my dad and I'm really super sad and I want him here and I really want my family member back and I really want this to happen. So, threw myself a freaking pity party all week. Still showing up where I was supposed to, but
Mm-hmm.
not beating myself up about it this time. So that's
Mm-hmm.
some progress, and being aware of what I was eating and being okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I put myself on the spot so that everybody could see. Because we started off with your vulnerable post. So I thought, if you could be vulnerable, I could be vulnerable on my own show. So
So awesome.
just, it's like you said, it's taking the steps, being aware of it, not beating yourself up about it. And I see here that I'm pretty much doing the cycle of pattern of what you said, being aware of it. Now the next thing is just doing better at not going to my go-to, trying something
Uh,
completely different.
Like I would say yes and no. So like some of the things that I heard are like is very emotional charged. And you said like you ate things through the week that you shouldn't have, which means you have a shouldn't have list. So um, I actually take a very different approach to like we talked about one side of it. So there's some other sides to discuss and be open to, um, and also to acknowledge like this was a huge weekend.
Mhm.
You said like this is a big thing. This is emotionally charged. Yeah, yes, it was. So probably a really good idea is just to let yourself go through that and enjoy the weekend. And when I say enjoy the weekend, I really mean enjoy those foods.
Mhm.
And this is one of the big shifts that I make with people is actually enjoy the foods, which means no self judgment. So you did say, I hope I'm not I hope I'm not out of line here, but you said you were kind to yourself, but I did hear a little bit of judgment in some of the things that were coming through after. Um, and so it is a practice and a process.
Mhm.
And when you're dealing with a highly charged emotional time, just you like not maybe not a good time to practice a new skill. Okay, that like thinking about again coming back to the skill idea. If like I have some guitars behind me, so if I gave you a guitar and I was like, "Hey, play Beethoven's sonata or something or a piano," you'd be like, "I can't." So
Right.
let's start with a simple scale. So we take that idea of skill development, but we apply it to well the way that we're thinking about things and the way we're around food, and it's not like jump into your final boss battle with food and expect to like work on this process. It's like no, just make it through. Tomorrow's a new week,
Yeah.
or next week's a new week. That's a better time.
Yeah.
I don't know, like so.
And I love that you said that because today I was more focused and more on plan. I guess you would say, even though I know you don't like those words, but I stayed true to what I knew I needed in order to get me to the body that I needed, the body
Mm,
that I want.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's some. I'm just going to go to the comments real quick. Kenny said, "I certainly do not live with for other people. Savor the flavor of the osmos of that for sure." Welcome, Ligia. She's from Costa Rica.
Cool.
And Melanie has that whole health approach instead of just focusing on body because the mind and emotions are important, like the way you presented that. Exactly. Love,
Mm.
love, love all that. Wow. See, I knew this was going to be a very important episode, and I knew that this was going to like it's almost at the top of the hour, and I'm just like I knew this would zoom by because it's funny. There is six other women involved. We're doing a body image book, and
Mm.
I did a whole chapter on my journey with my self image and body image, um, which the book will be coming out. I'm not sure when because we're still working out some things. So uh, it's really great that I had you on the show because I had said to excuse me my women in my Saturday morning mastermind group, I'm like, you guys have got to watch the show because this is something that we have all struggled with. I don't know too many women that haven't struggled either one way, too skinny or too big or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important, and it's just like it's everywhere. And like you said, you just can't get rid of it. So for those of you this tuning in just now, definitely look Luke up on Facebook at Luke Jonathan Rossmo. He has got an amazing group. If you become friends with him on Facebook, he might invite you to the Facebook group. But you really need to get inside that group because he goes live pretty much once a week at
Yeah.
least. He has some important, incredible tips on there. Um, I know I need to spend more time inside that group. Just definitely getting all that Luke has here. And if you're just tuning in now, we had talked about the reason why I brought Luke on. It was because of a post he had made on Facebook,
Mm.
um, disclosing just, and he was very very vulnerable in that. Just go back to the replay after and go take a look at that because I'm telling you, there is no way that you could look at that, and not be compelled to work with this guy. Um, it's, or at least get into his free group and
Yeah.
get the content and then sign up.
I mean, it sometimes it goes that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes that way. I think the reason though is because like I really advocate for a completely different way of doing things, and then really do my best to put that to practice. I hope that's evident in some of the like some of the exchange that we've had so far.
Yeah. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. I mean, and for me, it's refreshing to
Mm.
hear a man talk about it and talk about the struggles that he faced, like that you faced with weight loss, and your own journey with that. And I think women, we have to realize that we're not the only ones that go through it. um and I love that post that you posted today, about your wife and how she just eats everything and anything. Go I'm not going to bring that post, I'm not going to go share it. You need to go find Luke on Facebook, be friends with him, and you can go see that post yourself. But just how you're very authentic, you're very real, you've been through the journey, and you know what it's like to get to the other side. And I love what you said is when you were trying to, you ended up having to put weight on so that you could get your six pack abs. And like that was awesome.
So like a little nuance there, and um, I just want to comment on a couple things because you said so much, and the post today was like we we human beings and our journey with food and our journey with ourselves and our bodies, we're looking for the ultimate outcome. It's like, remember what I said earlier, like I'll be okay when, but the truth is that the context of our lives is always changing. Me today is different than me a year from now, is different from me a year ago. So when we experience like huge loss in our lives, or we move across the country, or we start a new business, or like life ebbs and flows. And really, I wanted to convey the message to, oh, my dog's barking, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I have two miniature wiener dogs, but the idea is it's not human to aspire and live an ideal 24/7. It's okay to eat the cake like you did. That's
Mhm.
human. It's also okay to go through periods where you're more rigid with food. There are really no good or bads here. It's really about ebbing and flowing, and really understanding how to give yourself what you need and have flexibility, because you can't be rigid. You can't be perfect. You're a human being. I'm sorry, but you're not a robot.
No.
So that's I wanted to comment there. And what was the last thing you said? There's something else I wanted to talk about. Shoot.
Sorry.
That's okay. Is it gone? It's probably gone. There that's even Bella.
I had said your wife's post, and then the post about, oh, what was it? There was two posts I had referenced.
Yeah,
Um,
oh, I
um
I remember. I can jump in.
okay.
Um you said that I had to put on weight to like reveal the abs.
Right.
And that's it's almost true. I I set a goal. And I actually encourage everybody that works with me to set a non-weight loss related goal. So for some people, that could be run a marathon, or run 5 kilometers, or walk 5 kilometers, or get to the gym a certain amount of times. It's got to stretch the 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 ideas they hold about themselves. So if you say I'm not a runner, we want to stretch the idea we hold about ourselves to show that it's fluid. You're fluid. You can become something.
Mhm.
So I really tried to live and breathe that. So I set this goal to bench press 300 pounds, which was so outside the scope of what I thought was possible for me. Um, and anyway, I set that goal, and so the first thing I did was talk to someone who could help me do that, because I'd never done that for myself. I had to learn how to do differently and become someone different to do that.
Mhm.
So I reached out to this guy. He gave me a plan. He said, "You're gonna have to eat more food," and I did. So he said, "You can do this in 3 months," and I was thinking years. I thought there's no way, because I had to add. what amounted to 45 pounds to my bench press. And I thought that is literally impossible. You're telling me something that is impossible. Um, but it also, so through that process, I recognized that even I'm tearing up saying this. Uh, Even up until like 4 or 5 months ago, my whole life was about weighing less. All the decisions that I was led to make came from this place of weighing less, eating less, being less. And so not until I committed to eating more, I put on 20 pounds.
Wow.
And I did. I hit my goal. I bench pressed 300 pounds. I did it a day before 3 months was up, which blew my mind. But I added 20 pounds, and I went from having almost visible abs. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just sharing information, to not having abs at all. So nothing there. And now I'm bringing the weight back off. But it's really cool for me that, so we want things to be black and white. We want things to be really simple and beautiful. And I'll tell you what, like when I put that weight back on, I became less confident.
Mhm.
I started to think, I started to shrink. It's messy. It's messy.
Mhm.
We're human. That's okay.
Yeah.
And now the weight's coming back off. I did feel pretty good having being at that heavier weight. I feel better now. I do look better. Um, it's messy, guys. So there was lessons even in that little journey for me. Um,
I love every part of what you said there. And so I just have to share something.
hmm.
Um so I shared my ugly. I'll share you with the good. So
Yes.
in January, okay, so we have this thing sometimes. Well, I maybe it's just me. I don't know. There are periods in my life where I think is like I just the human garbage can. So you hurry up, you eat it to get rid of it, so that you won't continue to eat it next week because the diet starts Monday, right? We've all had
Yep.
that, right?
Yep.
So that's what happened with me at the end of last year. I'm like, okay, this was like it wasn't the shittiest year of my life, but it was very challenging. Um, you know, and
hmm
so I just like screw it. I'm just gonna eat and drink what I want, and then January 3rd, I'm gonna start. That's it. I'm gonna be strict. So I took my measurements. So that was January 5th. I did that. I took my
hmm
measurements March 5th. Keep in mind, for a whole month, I was eating on plan, didn't lose a freaking ounce. I was so mad because I didn't
hmm
lose anything. So I decided, well, I'm just going to eat what I want.
hmm
And I did that for 3 weeks. And then I ran into you and I'm like, well, Luke says this, so I'm going to try this. The 80-20 rule. Eat 80 clean, 20 eat whatever the hell I want. Or if it's something that I really want, I'm just going to eat it and just,
And
go for a
enjoy
walk
it.
and enjoy it and go for a walk. So I did that. So then March 5th comes along and I was so mad because I was just like I I felt uncomfortable. So my girlfriend says, "Get rid of that damn scale and go take your measurements again."
hmm
She goes, "Just do that for me." So because I was ready to cry and I was just like so angry at myself. So I did. I went to take my measurements and guess what? Down 10 inches over my entire body from January 5th to March 5th. So get rid of the damn scale.
Yeah.
Go by how your clothes feel.
Yeah.
And I can so identify with what you said and how you were so emotional about, that time. And it's just like, man, I feel for you. I just want to go comments quickly. Hey, Inger, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Jenny, for joining us. Good to have you here, Inger. Kenny D has sent you a connection request and through LinkedIn. Uh,
Thanks,
good.
Kenny. I'm not super active on LinkedIn, just in case
Yeah.
it sits there a while, man. It's not personal. Yeah.
Yeah, but I so share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I thank you for sharing that. Your how emotional that was, like you said, because we're always in a state of mind of where we have to lose, 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 and how that can affect everybody. So, and affect different stages. And I know I'm trying to be cognizant of your time, and I know we're at the hour, but we normally have a section of the show called the fundamentals. And Kimberly has missed last week, and she's missing this week. We have also, like I said, at started the beginning of the show because we've teamed up with Camaraderie Rescue Mission. Well, she's actually on the front lines with Camaraderie Rescue Mission for the next 3 months. So we say what we do. If we say we're going to partner with somebody, we do. So she'll be on next week, but she just got back from a 6-day boating experience with a bunch of female veterans. So she needs to recuperate a little bit. So some of the fundamentals is so fun as in capital FUN / duh, like it's a no-brainer. And then mentals with a capital M because we'd be mental not to have it. So we had asked you, what are your 3 fundamentals that you base your life on? So basically the foundations and the cores of what you are all about.
That's hilarious. I don't remember. It's like been so long. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Did you write? Do you have them?
I do have them. You want me to tell you what yours were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's not. I have ideas like popping up, but like, 3.
3.
I have a good idea, but do you mind? Like, is that
No,
weird?
that's fine. I can tell you what you put. So
Yeah. Tell me what I put.
you had put to put yourself first.
Yeah.
To be deeply present in all that you do,
Yeah.
and to allocate growth is what you had put down.
Allocate growth. Yeah. I
Allow
those.
growth. I'm sorry. Allow growth. Allow growth.
I I don't know. So if I'm just jumping in now, like the space that I'm in this moment, um, it's not enough to allow growth. Well, maybe it is. Now we're getting philosophical, but pursue growth. Be growth orientated, which means so many different things to me. Uh, I think putting yourself first is fundamental, and yeah, those things are they've served me well, and like my life is pretty good now, and it hasn't been for a long time, and so I guess this stuff is like it's the growth that came out of my struggle, so it's serving me well now.
And that's awesome. And you shared your your story of just recently, with having to put the weight on to get to your goal and the mental struggle that you went through, but you allowed that growth, right? So
Yeah, and
that's
it was a
huge.
learning experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, I could riff there, but I don't think I need to. I think I riffed enough earlier, you know.
Well, folks, I know we're past the hour, so I want to, be respectful of everybody's time. I just want to thank everybody and all our guests here tonight, showing up in the comments. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming out every week to support the show. And thank you for being here for Luke, and such wonderful questions. And I hope you got a lot out of it. Definitely, like we said, connect with Luke on Facebook. And Luke, do you have any final thoughts for our guests?
No, just thank you again for the opportunity to spend some time with you, and I really hope that something I said was helpful for at least one person.
That's great that you said that, because our mission here on the show is to reach one. If we can reach one per episode, we've done our job. So thank you for saying that. That just
It's making
reiterates.
a difference. We like again this human thing. Like we think we need to reach 1 million people. It's like no, just like one person. That's enough. It's enough today.
For today. All right, friends. With that, be unstoppable, and definitely meet us next week. I'm not sure who next week's guest is. I have it written down, but I didn't look ahead of time. So be unstoppable, be you, be authentic, and kill it your way. With that, see you next week.